What about Russell? He was the pole man for a rejuvenated Mercedes, absolutely flying. George had a really cracking weekend, but in the end had to settle for third place in quite a tumultuous race day for him. Controlled it off the line, but a couple of errors just dropped him back at crucial phases, and he was quite critical of his own performance. I think he was quite decent overall in the race, but no doubt a couple of moments got away from him. I'm going to start with this one, which is where he lost the lead and lost the position to Verstappen, which becomes crucial. So Norris comes flying past with the DRS. There's not much that Russell can do here. And as we play this, you can just see now, as he's on the brakes heading for the chicane, he's coming from that inside line. So he's defended the position. It's the lead of the race. It's completely understandable that he would do that. But with the DRS overspeed, Lando's through anyway. And you can just see the spray coming off that right-hand tyre there. That shows that now he's got less grip on this part of the track than would be ideal. So he actually gives up the position quite easily to Lando here. But still, because he's coming from that inside line, he just can't stop the car quick enough. And that means he's now off the line and cuts through that chicane. And that's going to allow Verstappen through. And as he rejoins, he just bolts now straight in the car, all the way back across for this nice patch of drier tarmac. He's trying to get the traction out. He knows he's got Max just behind as well. But in doing so, comes across the front of Max. Now, the stewards looked at that. I don't think there's anything in it. Max actually had plenty of time to see that one coming and just go around, which he does. But that's first place. Second place was inevitable, and there was nothing he could do about that one. But third place was the killer blow for George. Had he kept that place ahead of Max, who knows? Maybe he could have won the Grand Prix. With Lando getting unlucky at the safety car, he still would have been in the pound seat. And Mercedes called this race really well strategically. As a team, they were right back on fire and back to the front. So that was encouraging. But it was also not the only time that Russell found the escape road. He gets back ahead of Norris with the safety car and Lando losing position. Then they have a fight through the slick tyre phase. George gets back ahead and makes this mistake now up at turn 8. Difficult corner, lots of people making mistakes. And actually now he's on the slippery part, on the slick tyres. It's an easy one to make, but again, it cost him crucial position and Norris comes back through. And this one's such a subtle mistake. So if we look at Russell and Norris on the same lap, second and third, Russell on the hard tyres, Norris on the mediums, but fresher out of the pit. So Russell, in theory, should have more grip at this stage. And you can just see the way that they're approaching the corner. George is on a sort of narrower, shallower line, whereas Lando's coming from more the inside and he's aiming out. And this is such a subtlety that as we go underneath the bridge, we're now in the shade a little bit. There's damp patches, and there's just slightly more space on the left-hand side for Norris on the right than there is for Russell on the left. And what's going to happen is George just gets onto that white line earlier and finds a damp patch. And that's all it is. And he's carrying enough speed. He knows he's got Norris behind him. He's under big pressure, and he's turning into the right-hand side. And just look at the steering of Russell now. As he finds that damp patch, he just has to correct it and straighten the car up, whereas Lando is able to cross that white line a little bit later, and it's not underneath the bridge. He's able to find a bit more grip, and by doing the more extreme cut to the outside, he's gone around that bit of slipperiness on the outside underneath the bridge. This is so subtle, and as a driver, it's really difficult to know what you're going to find where. You have to be experimenting, you have to be pushing the limits, and at some point, lines that weren't possible will become possible. And that's what George is trying to do. But just that slight bit more speed, and he finds himself bouncing over the curb there. And Norris has to come across the wet line to make the move. Takes a tear off as he comes back on, throws it right into the path of Russell behind. But that now is a crucial place for Lando. And now he won't relinquish that until the end of the race.
Oh, Russell's gone in deep, has he?
Yes, he has. Does he open the door? Lando Norris is off the road, but he's back off the racing line, but he's back into second place.
Focus, George, focus.
But the final chance that Russell had to take second place was denied because he fumbled a first move trying to get third place off Oscar Piastri. So Mercedes take another set of tyres at the safety car. This was good strategy. Even though it cost George third place on the road, it meant that he had fresh tyres and they were a lot quicker than the two McLarens late on. But as we see here, now in the slipstream, the wheel tracks of Piastri, this is a really tough position for George. Oscar defends the inside, George is ahead on the outside. It's very difficult to know what to do for him in this position. He turns in, hoping now that Piastri is going to be backing out from the inside line. And as they turn in, there's almost the space. They just about get away without a major collision. There's a tiny tap, but nothing penalised worthy in there. And now Russell knows he has to go through that runoff area. Now he's on the damp part, on slick tyres at this stage, and Hamilton's going to come past for good measure. So it's another place lost by cutting across a runoff area. And I do sort of sympathise with Russell on this one because, again, this one's a really tricky pass to try and execute. From the moment we get to this position in the brakes, once Piastri has decided he's going to send it in on the inside, it's an aggressive defence from Oscar, absolutely no doubt. But you can understand it. He's fighting for a podium here and he's trying to help defend his teammate as well in second. So he's absolutely in his right to try and hold it on the inside. From here, Russell either has to turn in and do what he did, in which case he's doomed to fail on the exit and be passed by Hamilton, or the only other alternative is whether he can just check up at this stage, knowing that Oscar's coming in on the inside. Can he just stand on the brakes, kind of let Piastri come through and then follow him and try and maybe get the run out of the corner with another DRS zone or wait for another lap? It's actually a really tricky one. You need a lot of foresight in this to not just try and make it work and with the McLaren steaming in, end up as he did. So it's a bit of an unlucky one there for Russell. Maybe on another day, he would have just been a bit more cautious. But when you've got quite a lot of your Mercedes car ahead, to just barrel it on the outside and see if you can make it work.
I felt I made one too many mistakes out there. Maybe been a bit hard on myself because looking back, everybody made mistakes at some point in the race.
But after looking at a couple of mistakes from Russell, let's have a look at a lovely move on Lewis Hamilton, the fight between the two Mercedes that ended up being for third position. And this one is a really nice move. George, I still think was very strong through the weekend, pole position, and taking this route here is bold. Now, Lewis is defending the inside. These two are in a straight fight. We know the story of them as teammates now, Hamilton leaving the team, and they're pretty keen to race against each other. And this is a bold chance for Russell to take this line on the slippery part, right on the inside. No one's really driven on here. And as he goes for that, it does get slippery. You can see the spray coming off that right front now as he's losing the grip. That's moisture on a slick tyre, and he's coming from such a shallow angle now on the inside. That's why Hamilton didn't want to defend right to the white line. But in doing that, George gets to the inside, has a big moment as he hits the brakes, manages to squeeze across and gets to the inside of Lewis. They come through and another big snap, really fighting the car. But that's Russell back ahead of Hamilton then. And quite a brave one for George. And I think still a deserved podium. Mercedes did a lot right. Great pit stops, great strategy, fast car. They'll be hoping that the drivers can put a slightly cleaner weekend together and they should be back in the front mix for good, maybe with their upgrades coming.
That was fun, and it reminded me of the karting days. And as I said, this is what we live for. And it's been a while since we've been in this position, so let's hope there's more of that to come.